Hello and welcome back again, Coffee Beans. This is Soil and Water Conservation Engineering. Definition of terms. Parts R and S. Recharge area. A land area over which water infiltrates and percolates downward to replenish an aquifer. Reclaimed water. Wastewater that is treated and reused to supplement water supplies. Rectangular weir. A channel structure having a rectangular flow notch. Recurrence interval. A time period in which a given hydrologic event can be expected to be equaled or exceeded. Usually expressed in years. Reducer. Coupler or conduit section in which the outlet end is smaller than the inlet end. Regime. Condition of a stream with respect to its rate of flow. Regulator leakage. The air flow still admitted through the regulator when the vacuum the regular sensing point falls 2 kilopascals below the regulated level at that point. Relief drain. A system of subsurface drain tiles or tubing installed within an area having a high water table, in order to lower the water table or maintain it at a given level. Relief valve pressure. The set point of a relief valve when one is used in a tractor hydraulic system to limit the pressure at the coupler pair. Reservoir. Body of water, such as a natural or constructed lake, in which water is collected and stored for use. Resin canal, or duct. Intercellular passages that contain and transmit resinous materials. They extend vertically or radially in a tree. Resistance block. Type of soil moisture probe used to monitor soil moisture conditions to help determine when water should be applied. Resistance coefficient. A quantitative expression of hydraulic resistance exerted by a conduit boundary on fluid flow. Resource management system. A combination of conservation practices and management identified by Land and Water uses that, when installed, will control soil losses and maintain acceptable water quality to permit sustained use. Retard. Permeable dikes or barriers built into a stream channel approximately at right angles to the bank line to deflect the main current away from and stop erosion of the stream bank. Retardance class. A characterization of vegetation with respect to its resistance to flow. Used primarily for designing vegetated waterways. Retention. Precipitation on an area that does not escape as runoff, the difference between total precipitation and total runoff. Retrofit. Replacement of existing equipment with equipment that uses less water. Return flow. That portion of the water diverted from a stream which finds its way back to the stream channel, either as surface or subsurface flow. Return flow system. A system of pipelines or ditches to collect and convey surface or subsurface runoff from an irrigated field for reuse. Return period. The frequency of occurrence of a hydrologic event whose intensity and duration can be expected to be equaled or exceeded. Usually expressed in years. Reuse system. A system designed to collect runoff from a surface irrigated field for reuse. Reverse grade. A slope or grade on a field surface. Crop row, or channel, that slopes in the direction opposite to the prevalent or desired grade. Reverse osmosis. Common process used to produce deionized water from municipal water. Revetment. Facing of stone or other material, either permanent or temporary, placed along the edge of a body of water to stabilize the bank and to protect it from erosion. Ridge-type terrace. Terrace embankment constructed from both sides. Rill. Small channels eroded into the soil surface by runoff, which can be filled easily and removed by normal tillage. Rill erosion. An erosion process in which numerous small channels of only several centimeters in depth are formed, occurs mainly on recently cultivated soils. Road crossing. It is used to carry water under roads or railroads. Rock fill dam. A dam composed of loose rock usually dumped in place, often with the upstream part constructed of hand-placed rock and faced with an impervious surface of concrete, timber or steel, or a thin core of impervious clayey materials. Root bed. The soil profile modified by tillage or amendments for use by plant roots. Root zone. That part of the soil profile exploited by the roots of plants, depth of soil that plants' roots readily penetrate and in which the predominant root activity occurs. Row drain. A small drain constructed with a plow or similar tillage implement to provide drainage into field drains or field laterals. Sometimes locally called plow drain, quarter drain, header ditch, or annual drain. Runoff. The portion of precipitation, snow melt, or irrigation that flows over the soil, eventually making its way to surface water supplies. Sabo dam. A concrete structure that control erosion and mass movement of sediments. Saltation. Soil movement by water or wind where particles skip or bounce along the streamed or soil surface. Saltwater intrusion. The invasion of fresh surface or groundwater by salt water. Sanitary sewers. Underground pipes that carry off only domestic or industrial waste, not storm water. Saturated flow. Flow of water through a porous material under saturated conditions. Saturated soil. A soil for which the entire profile is saturated with water. Scour. To abrade or wear away. The wearing away of a channel or surface is in a flood by flowing water. Screen. Wells. A manufactured well casing with precisely dimensioned and shaped openings. Screen. Canals. A device used to clean surface water of debris. Seasonal rate structure that bills all water consumed during the summer or peak season at a higher rate than during the other seasons. Secondary shear surface which result from the twisting, pushing, or tumbling of the soil after or during the initial displacement. Section, a surveyed parcel of land containing 640 acres 1 square mile. Sediment, any material carried in suspension or bed load in water which will ultimately settle after the water losses velocity. Sedimentation, deposition of waterborne or windborne particles resulting from a decrease in transport capacity. Sediment basin, pond at the upper end of a conveyance or reservoir for detaining particle-laden water for a sufficient length of time for deposition to occur. Sediment load, amount of sediment carried by running water or wind. Seepage, percolation of water through the soil, the slow movement of water through the small cracks. Pores, interstices, of a material. Seep collars, an annular plat of concrete or other impervious material placed on the outside surface of underground conduits to lengthen the flow path and thus impede seepage. Sewage system, pipelines or conduits, pumping stations, force mains, and all other structures, devices, and facilities used for collecting or conducting wastes to a point for treatment or disposal. Shallow tube well, STW. It is a tube or shaft vertically set into the ground for the purpose of bringing groundwater to the soil surface from a depth of less than 20 meters by suction lifting. Shear surface. Failure surfaces occurring where the soil has sheared. Shelter belt. Extended windbreak of living trees and shrubs established and maintained for protection of farmlands or buildings. Shutoff head. Pressure head on the outlet side of a pump at which the discharge drops to zero. Maximum pressure a pump will develop at a given speed. Side slopes. Slope of the sides of a channel or embankment. Horizontal to vertical distance, written 2:1. Skimming. Diverting surface water by means of a shallow overflow crest to avoid diverting sand, silt, or other debris carried as bed load. Soil and Water Conservation District. SWCD. A local government entity within a defined water or soil protection area that provides assistance to residents in conserving natural resources, especially soil and water. Soil ascending angle. An angle between the sliding path and the horizontal at any point along the sliding path. Soil auger. A tool used for boring into the soil and withdrawing small samples for field or laboratory examination. Soil conservation is the application of engineering principles to the solution of soil management problems. Method used to fully utilize and conserve soil. Soil consistency refers to the manifestation of physical forces of cohesion and adhesion acting within the soil at various moisture contents. Soil erodibility, a measure of the soil's susceptibility to erosional processes. Soil erosion is the detachment and transport of soil particles from the land by water or wind action. Soil horizon, a layer of soil differing from adjacent genetically related layers in physical, chemical, and biological properties or characteristics. Soil-water characteristic curve, soil-specific relationship between the soil-water metric potential and soil-water content. Soil-water deficit or depletion refers to the amount of water required to raise the soil-water content of root zone to field capacity. Soil water potential. It is the amount of work that must be done per unit quantity of pure water in order to transport reversibly and isothermally an infinitesimal quantity of water from a pool of pure water at a specified elevation at atmospheric pressure to the soil water at the point under consideration. Soil water pressure. It is the pressure, positive or negative, relative to the external gas pressure on the soil water, to which a solution identical in composition to the soil water must be subjected in order to be in equilibrium through a porous permeable wall with the soil water. Source protection. Protection of a water source by a small utility, ranging from simple sanitary surveys of a watershed to the development and implementation of complex land use controls. In an effort to avoid water contamination, spatially variable flow is a special case of flow in which the discharge varies with distance along the channel. Spearing, a technique of connecting crossing mold drains by forcing a spear or rod through both drain channels at the point of intersection. Specific capacity, well discharge divided by the water level drawdown after a specified pumping duration. Specific yield, amount of water that a unit volume of porous media or soil, after being saturated, will yield when drained by gravity. Spoil bank, excavated soil piled along a canal, ditch, or basin. Stabilizer pack, a material placed around a well casing where the character of the aquifer does not require a filter as a formation and borehole stabilizer. Staff gauge is a scale set at the river stream so that a portion of it is immersed in the water at all times to measure river stage. Stage, elevation of a water surface above or below an established datum, gauge height. Stand gate, a valve in a structure which covers an inlet into or an outlet from a pipeline and controls water flow into or out of the pipeline. Standing wave, Wave on the water surface at an acute angle to the flow which maintains a relatively constant position. Standpipe. A vent constructed of vertical pipe on a pipeline to relieve pressure surges and water hammer. Static head. It is the difference in elevation of the water surface in a pond, lake, or river from which the water flows from a submerged discharged pipe. In pumping the groundwater source. Static head is the difference in elevation between the water surface in the well and the water surface of the discharged canal. Steady flow is a type of flow if discharge is constant with respect to time. Steep backslope. Constructed with a stable steep back slope. Stilling basin is a structured device designed to hold a pool of water to cushion the impact and retard the flow of falling water as from an overflow weir. Chute or drop. Stilling well, pipe, chamber, or compartment, having closed sides and bottom except for a comparatively small inlet connected to a main body of water for attenuation of waves or surges while permitting the water level within the well to rise and fall with the major fluctuations of the main body. Stone drain. Underground channel with sides and top lined with flat stones, forming a generally rectangular or triangular section through which water passes. Stone wall. Made of stones carefully and properly piled up and arranged on steep embankments to protect from gully erosion or landslide. Storage coefficient. See specific yield. Storage curve. Relationship between the volume of water stored and water surface elevation in a reservoir. Stormwater. Water that is generated by rainfall and is often routed into drain systems in urban areas to prevent flooding. Stream. Any body of running water moving under gravity flow through clearly defined natural channels to progressively lower levels. Stream bank erosion is an erosion of stream banks by flowing water. Stream bank stabilization. Vegetative or mechanical control of erodible stream banks, including measures to prevent stream banks from caving or sloughing such as lining banks with riprap, or matting and constructing jetties or revetments, as necessary, for permanent protection. Stream channel erosion consists of soil removal from stream banks or soil movement in the channel. Streamflow. It is the discharge that occurs in a natural channel. Subgrade. Earth material beneath a subsurface drain or foundation. Submain. A collector pipe which serves several laterals and discharges into a larger main collector pipe. Submerged aquatic vegetation. Aquatic vegetation, macrophytes that cannot withstand excessive drying and therefore live with their leaves at or below the water surface. Submerged flow. Flow through any critical depth measuring structure where the downstream water depth is high enough to interfere with establishment of critical velocity at the control section. Submersible pump motor. An electric motor located on a pump below the water level in a well and designed to pump water upward to a water system. Submetering. Use of separate meters to indicate individual water use in apartments, condominiums, and trailer homes, while the entire complex of units continues to be metered by the main supplier. Subsurface drain. Subsurface conduits used primarily to remove subsurface water from the soil. Classification of subsurface drains include pipe drains, tile drains, and blind drains. Suppressed weir. Measuring weir with sides and bottom flush with the channel, thus eliminating contractions or nap of the overflowing water. Surface collecting drains. Ditches used to remove pondages and move water more rapidly into outlet drains. Surface creep. Movement of coarse sediment in almost continuous contact with the soil surface during wind erosion. Surface drainage. The diversion or orderly removal of excess water from the surface of land by means of improved natural or constructed channels, supplemented when necessary by shaping or grading of land surfaces to such channels. Surface inlet. Structure for diverting surface water into an open ditch. Subsurface drain, or pipeline. Surface pipe outlet. Outlet for attaching a surface pipe to a riser without using a portable hydrant. Surface retention. That portion of precipitation required to satisfy interpretation, the wetting of the soil surface. And depression storage. Surface runoff. That which travels over the ground surface and through the channels to reach the basin outlet. Surface sealing. Reorienting and packing of dispersed soil particles in the immediate surface layer of soil and clogging of surface pores resulting in reduces infiltration. Surface soil is the upper 12 inches or 30 centimeters of the soil, or in arable soils, the depth commonly stirred by the plow. Surface storage. Sum of detention and channel storage excluding depression storage. Represents at any given moment the total water en route to an outlet from an area or watershed. Surface water. Water flowing or stored on the Earth's surface. Surge. That transient or cyclic phenomenon wherein water flowing in conduits at atmospheric pressure becomes unsteady with a rocking or oscillating motion as it moves from one steady state condition to another. Surging stem, jetting stem. Lightweight pipes used during high-velocity flow operation. Survey cut. It is the difference between the initial and final surge gauge heights at a point during an excavation or land grading operation. Synthetic hydrograph. is prepared using the data from a number of watershed to develop dimensionless unit hydrographs which are applicable to ungauged watersheds. Also a dimensionless hydrograph that is made from natural or unit hydrographs in which the time to peak Tp, and the peak runoff rate Qp, are considered and T over Tp is plotted against Q over Qp. Hope it helps. Thank you again for listening. Please like, subscribe and comment your suggestion on topics you want to hear. Links of previous topics are stated in the description box below. See you in the next part. Bye. Rar.